there are three things that I say to anybody and everybody, and it applies to literally globally, worldwide, everyone. Good food, good music, and good fragrance. Three things, right?
Today, I sit down with Sahil Khan, who is one of the best musicians I have met in my entire life. He's a flautist, someone who plays a flute, and he is incredible. He plays during the cocktail hour at weddings, he plays at receptions, he plays, during the first dance, and even at ceremonies. Again, one of the best musicians I have met in my entire life. And in this conversation with him, I learned about not only his journey, but his advice to couples who are about to get married and what they should be looking for in live entertainment, live musical entertainment. And if that's something you have ever considered, this is one you're not going to want to miss. If we have never met before, my name is Durgi Spade, also known as the Magic MC, as I'm a magician and MC at weddings. But in this set of videos called Wedding Checklist Now, we try to interview people such as Sahil to bring you the best tips and tricks and even checklists for you to consider when planning your wedding. You're not going to want to miss this one right after this.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I have the absolute pleasure to be your host this evening.
Mr. Sahil Khan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, good. Durgi, how are you doing, man?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being part of this, this new project we've got going on here. I've called it Wedding Checklist or Wedding Checklist Now. And the idea is to, give couples tips, tricks, and checklists to think about when they're getting married for their big day. And who better to speak to for something like this than someone like yourself, who is an expert, honestly, one of the best in Canada when it comes to doing what you do, which is, providing entertainment at weddings. And I've seen you do this live. But you know what? Instead of me explaining it, maybe I'll ask, who are you? What do you do? Can you help me out with that?
Absolutely. So, I think I can comfortably say I've been part of the Canadian wedding industry for, I would say, almost 15 years now, right? So, I mean, obviously in the beginning it was quite off and on, but now it's been a regular thing, and it's been great. Being a part of so many, stories, love stories, I must say, right? Being part of their memories for almost a lifetime, and it's been great. What I do is I do a couple of things. I am primarily a flautist, an Indian flute player. My instrument is better known as bansuri and not flute. I play that. I've been playing that for over 25 years now. And I do play an instrument called shehnai. That is, you can say it's an Indian oboe, but basically it is something that is very closely associated with traditional wedding ceremonies. Bless you.
I put myself on mute hoping that I wouldn't be noticed. Sorry, go on.
No worries. And the third thing that I do is that I sing as well. And a lot of folks request me for their first dances and things along the lines. But any time of the day, I consider myself a flautist first, and then anything else. So that's like my gamut of things that I kind of revolve in between in terms of an entertainment provider.
And am I saying it right? Is it flautist?
It is. The correct pronunciation is flautist, not flutist.
Okay, flautist, got it. And help me, so someone like me who maybe doesn't know the difference between a flute and a bansuri. And hopefully I said it right. But what's the difference between those two?
So, flute is flute. This piece of wood, it's hollow piece of wood right here with 6 holes to maneuver the notes and the 7th hole to blow and actually make the sound, right? This is where it all started. The rest, everything else that you see, English flute, metal flute, piccolo, penny whistle, you name it. There are like hundreds of different types of flutes. South America has their own, Japan has its own, India, China has its own, etc., etc. And usually when you say flute to folks here, it only means like flute that is a metal flute, right? There's a huge distinction between the playing style, even the tonal quality and everything else as well, right? So that's what it is.
So thanks for sharing that. And, truthfully, I didn't know, the difference and even the history there. And you're right. When I think of flute, I think back to my grade 8 music class right here in Toronto. And we had, the metal flute that I didn't play, but I saw their kids play. And so that kind of helps sets things in context. Let me take it a slightly different direction. How does a man like you, who's obviously so talented in the musical arts, but also, you've got a career outside of music as well, right? You're in business or accounting, if I remember correctly, or based on right? You've got an MBA.
That is correct.
Accounting and finance from, how do I say this? Economics at Wilfrid Laurier University. Like, you're a brainiac. You're a really smart guy. So how does someone also find the time to juggle like both such high intensity things that take up a lot of time? And, right before the show, you shared with me, I hope you don't mind me saying, but you've also got 2 young kids. So, maybe there's a 8-year-old flautist listening into this show right now. And, maybe there's advice you could give this young person. Is there anything that you could share for someone like that, or how to juggle so many things?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I mean, last year has been a reminder, that what it could have been, right, versus what it is and what it has been, right? So, I mean, from that perspective, what is it the primary driving force that allows me to do all of it? I think it is passion. It's not a hobby. It is a passion. Passion for music. Which then evolved to, a passion for, almost leaving some kind of a legacy behind, whether it is, pieces that I've played on YouTube or just interactions with folks that I work with. It's that level of passion, and in terms of being able to share that passion with everyone else, that's what is the primary driving force behind all of this. I don't know if this is age appropriate, but here's the thing. Yesterday, I saw this meme, and I think it's a perfect fit for this conversation. It said, if there was a crackhead, right, who was to actually go out and, he's got nothing on him, but he's got to get a fix, right? He will make it a point that he gets a fix. That's hustle. Whether it is, you call it passion, you call it what have you, right? And then at the bottom it said, don't let a crackhead out hustle you today. You see what I'm saying? The point is, in this case, hustle is passion. If you are passionate about sharing your art, your talent, and your music with anyone and everyone in a way that it also leaves a long-lasting memory, that's where it all actually comes together for me personally, And I really find that as the driving force behind what I do. And whether it is, my accounting side of things or my MBA side of things or CPA side of things or family or work or what have you, I'm able to find the time for this thing and really add value to what I do and to people that I work with.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard it put together so eloquently. It's not just a hobby, it's a passion. I think those words will stick with me Indeed. For a long time. So thanks for sharing that. And, I've seen you actually play, your passion definitely shines through. But let me ask you this, there's going to be a lot of brides and grooms possibly listening to this. And the world has changed quite a bit in the last 18 months with the pandemic, right? So what do you see differently, how couples should be perhaps approaching weddings, or maybe even more specifically, since you are an entertainer when it comes to weddings, even more specifically, how should they be approaching entertainment pre-COVID versus post-COVID? What should they be thinking about differently today than maybe they didn't need to worry about 18 months ago?
Yeah, I think many things have changed in terms of the perspective, right? Previously, I think the idea was bigger is better, more is not enough. I think I really am noticing a shift, especially in terms of what I do, right? Folks have started really appreciating the element of music, for example. And specifically live music, right? And the dynamic that the live music brings through a ceremony or what have you, right? In this case, I've been doing a lot of ceremonies with officiants and priests and panditjis and stuff like that, right? A lot of folks are now doing telecasting their event live, right? So be it Zoom, be it what have you, to not just interact with folks that are around, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 people who are joining online from all parts of the world. People have started really paying attention to doing less and at the same time making sure that it kind of outshines in the sense that they're picking elements that they would have said, what, maybe if the budget allows. Instead, they are saying, what, how can I make my ceremony or my thing special by having fewer items but exquisite items, exquisite things that are going to make a difference and leave long-lasting memories, right? That's what I've been noticing for for the last few months or so anyways, right? At the end all be all, I mean, 6 months, a year and a half or two from now, I think things might snap back into the same space. I think people will have a better appreciation for everyone and everything, and that will be the driving force behind them being happy, content, and all those type of things from their vendors, and from the services that they're providing, all those type of things.
That's really good to hear. And you shared a lot actually in there. If I've never met you before, I've never heard of you. If I'm a bride or a groom, soon to be bride or groom, who's never even heard of a flautist or knew that you could hire a flautist to come to a wedding, help me understand, where else can your work fit in? Where do you perform? Because you mentioned the ceremony. Now, internally, yeah. I know there's a lot more to it, but I'd rather hear it from you. Where else can we have a flautist come in?
Very, very good question, Durgi. So, the element of live music can fit in pretty much anywhere in the entire gamut of the wedding ceremony, the cocktail hour, during the event in itself as a special performance, first dance, anywhere and everywhere where you can really envision a live musician, right? I do a lot of wedding ceremonies, but I also focus on a lot of the cocktail hours, right? The transition period between, say, the wedding reception and welcoming of the guests, right? A lot of featured performances. That's been also a thing these days. Folks have been requesting featured performances. So myself alongside a couple of musicians whom I may have collaborated with, and then bring that in as a featured performance during the dinner, play there, and all those type of things, right? So there are a lot, and then another thing that I want to mention is at the tail end of things, a lot of folks say, well, traditional, just turn on the CD, you do your first dance, and that's it, right? Well, first dance with a live musician, it does not get any better, right? Because the dynamics of it is not static. It is actually dynamic. What I mean by that is, you turn on the CD, and then, if it's a well choreographed and well rehearsed routine, that's a different story. And that happens probably under 5% of the times, to be honest. And then it becomes viral on Instagram, right? But the rest of the 95% of the times, it's like a CD that is being clicked on play by a DJ, right? Versus a live musician who actually engages not just you, but your parents, your siblings, your other couples that you can actually call upon, right? And then open the transition into a dance floor, right? So all those type of things, right? Anywhere and everywhere where there is an element of music, I think a live musician can add value through the entire gamut of wedding reception and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's super helpful, and I feel like you almost answered my next question. You almost read my mind, because I was going to ask you, it's so easy for me as a future bride or future groom to, think along the lines of like, First dance, I'll get this DJ to hit the play button. Or during the cocktail hour, we'll just set up the speaker and play music. But I think you spoke really well to how it's so much more powerful to have live music. And, sometimes just seeing it is the only way to really get the, true feeling or I almost feel like it's hard to explain why,
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. There are three things that I say to anybody and everybody, and it applies to literally globally, worldwide, everyone. Good food, good music, and good fragrance. Three things, right? I kid you not, apparently there is a thing where folks actually find a fragrance for their event. There is such a thing as that. I was at a gig in Nice, I think it was, and they had a fragrance for the event. It was a 5-star hotel, and wherever we went, the whole thing was actually taken over by this event. So wherever we went, from entrance to anywhere we went, there was a fragrance of the event. Kid you not, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years later, I'm at one of the stores, and I end up smelling a J. Malone. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but one of the exquisite perfumers in the world, right? And I smell it, I'm like, this is Nice. And same thing with live music as well. So we went for an RV trip a couple of weeks back, and we went for a road trip a couple of years back, Euro road trip as well. What we did was, Dirty would pick the song, our song for our Euro road trip. And I kid you not, 5, 7, 10 years later, I hear that track, and in seconds I'm teleported back into my memories, and good memories that is, when I was in Venice, when I was in Rome, when I was in Portofino, also and so forth, right? So, a CD that is being played in the background versus a live musician who's actually giving you that specific music on an instrument, as flute that is, right? It will always hold a placeholder in anybody's mind forever and ever for the time to come, right? They will always look back at an event and they'll be like, flute, yes, I remember. This is where we heard live music and so on and so forth, right? So good food, music, and fragrance. Those three things will never ever fade away in terms of making and retaining a memory.
You know what? That's such a good point, and you're right. I've never connected the dots in a wedding, thinking about it from the context of a wedding, but outside of the context of a wedding, I've always known, deep down, music brings people back, right? I think we can all relate, I hear that song. This was the song that was on the radio all the time in my last year of high school, right?
That's right.
As an example. And you're right, even with smells, this smell, I remember this is a very specific smell on the streets of Goa in India when I visited the Taj Mahal. Correct. Of this specific butter chicken or whatever. And, I guess I never really thought about it from that perspective as far as music goes within weddings. But yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think there's also something else there. Maybe there's a term for it in music land. I know nothing about music. What I do know is when I hear good music, what I think is good music, I remember it. And I'll give you 2 examples. I remember visiting New York City, 15 years ago, and all of a sudden this band came out to play just on the street. And the sound that came out of their instruments felt so different than a CD being played. If they recorded that same music and played it on the CD, and even if it was the exact same song and everything, for some reason it wouldn't sound the same. I just remember, I don't know if it was because I was hearing it from all around me, or the fact that I could sense when somebody put in more energy into their instrument, but there was something special about it. And the second time I remember in my life was actually last year or 2 years ago when I went to New Orleans, which obviously has a huge music scene, and same thing, right? Just seeing these bands play, and it hits home like no CD has ever hit home for me. And again, maybe there's a word for that, but live music, definitely there's something special about it. Any thoughts? Am I on the right track?
You're 100% on the right track. You were in New York for what?
I was there for a weekend with friends.
Okay, weekend with friends, having fun, making memories. How about New Orleans?
I was there with my wife, again, for fun for a week.
So, again, fun and memories, right? So, the moment you will ever hear that band or a similar instrument, it will automatically teleport you back to that good times, good memories, and that's the whole idea, right? That's the whole idea. And piece of my music also has a degree of interaction as well, right? So I would interact with the audience, kind of feel the temperature out, feel the room out and see, what the different demographics are like, play the music that, that will basically cater to everyone's musical taste, different age groups, the old, the new, the top 40s, it's not that you know a piece of music and you're gonna play the same piece of music over and over again. It's not like that, right? You're always catering to what you see, right? So you almost are like a live musician for a DJ while you're reading your dance floor to see, is everyone having fun? Is everyone, is someone bobbing their head, right? And that you're actually catering to their musical experience. That is what leaves a placeholder, because everyone's at the wedding to have fun, right? To have fun, to make memories, to give their blessings, the whole gamut, right? But at the end of the day, the common denominator for my purposes is that they are there to have fun, make memories. And how do I best make memories is to actually give them music that they like, right?
Well, thanks for sharing that. And, let me take it one step further now. Let's imagine a future bride or groom and I'm watching this and I say, okay, you are the expert. Maybe, I buy into it. I believe it. And maybe you're right. Maybe I should have some sort of live music at my wedding.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to give someone like me? Because remember, like the whole point of this show is to give, tips, tricks, and checklists to future bride and groom. So is there
Absolutely.
a checklist of items that I should be ticking off when maybe I'm looking for a live musician or, a band or, anything in that genre?
Yeah, very good. First things you want to do as a bride and groom is to actually, when you have the conversation with the musician, try to gauge their experience, right? Experience with what they're able to offer, right? Is it just a single thing that they've specialized in and that's it? Or is it something where they know the entire gamut of things and they're ready to work with you to ensure how best can they actually work with you in order to make your event a successful event, right? We all know musicians or, artists who, really honed in on one thing and one thing only, and that's it, right? So I think, from a bride and groom's perspective, I always say this to everyone, from a bride and groom's perspective, it's their one and only, right? For us, it could be 1,000th event. I've lost count, right? I really literally have lost count, right? So for us, you should be able to feel that passion for someone to actually make your event actually successful and memorable, right? And that is something very important, and that you have to feel out in the conversation that you are having. If it's a very cut and dry conversation, then it's a very dollar sense driven conversation, I probably would be checked out in the first minute and a half, if not. The other thing is fill them into as to, what your plan is like, right? And see if they can actually be your sounding board and, fill you in on a couple of other details, bring ideas, from other events that they've been at and, see if, those ideas can actually blend in with what you are trying to achieve. And so on and so forth, right? So I think experience is something that can be and should be gauged by the couples. The artistry and how warm the person is, I think that is something that people can feel in the conversation. I think that's very important in order to build that relationship.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to actually ask you to go deeper, or maybe challenge you to go a little bit deeper on your second point there. Because you're right, your second point was, ask the person you're speaking to about what else, I forgot your exact words, but what else, based on their experience, how else they can guide you, or, best approaches or best strategies for this. So let's pretend like I'm here, maybe I want to hire you for my wedding, and I say, Sal, can you help me out? Is there, what are your most memorable weddings where you felt your work really outshone, whatever the word is, maybe the other weddings that you've done, something really special? Is there any tips or tricks you can give me to make my wedding stand out?
Very good question. So there are several things that you need to do with everything that you are planning for your event, right? For example, placement of the artist is very important. Placement and positioning of the artist, right? You have bird chicken, you have this, you have that, you have some exotic food, you have some continental food, Asian food, this food, that food, everything else, right? And you bring it all together and you mix it up in a big, some kind of a utensil or what have you, right? And serve that. Well, the problem with that is, for all intents and purposes, you engaged a lot of vendors, an East Asian chef, a Chinese chef, an Asian chef, or Indian chef, and this and that, the other. But all the food was at the end of the day mixed into one thing and put as a mush, right? So you won't be able to differentiate between what went into it, the effort, the love, the care, the passion, and the dollars, right? More important, right? So the thing is, it's all about positioning. Sometimes, if at all, actually, I should say most of the times, less is more, right? Don't try to mix a lot of things into one thing and try to make something out of it. Positioning and placement is very important, right? So if I'm a live artist, and if you say, oh, you know what, this is my pet peeve. They pay so much for a live artist, right? And not placing them is almost criminal to me, right? So obviously that was a lesson learned for me, and for the viewers, it is a lesson learned moving forward, is to plan properly. For example, somebody would actually have me on for a cocktail hour. They have the stage in the front, theater style seating, right? They've put so much decor on there that they're like, you know what, we have no room on the stage. We've put a stage right by the entrance for you. Well, what you've done is you've actually taken a live artist whose whole point is presence and performance, P&P, presence and performance, right? You've taken one P out, and you are expecting that your people, your folks are going to be, somehow be able to appreciate. Only the people who are at the bar are going to appreciate it. That's it. That is 20%, 30% of the people, 40% max. That's it. That 60% people will think there is a CD playing, which is where we have, stolen away from the value proposition of having a live musician. Same thing, when I play live during the wedding ceremonies, the idea is to have 16 by 9. Right? Think of it 16 by 9. Anybody who is sitting in front of the in front of the mandap has to see the mandap, and right beside it, left or right, is a musician complementing the ceremony. If we are tucked in somewhere left, right, and out of the field of vision, well, then it might as well be a CD playing, right? So those are the things where, a checklist item, the very important piece, that placement and presence. How are you going to actually put it all together for it to actually come together? And that's where, by the way, a lot of seasoned wedding coordinators that I work with, seasoned, I'm talking about, people who've been there, done that, and we have had a good, really deep working relationship for a very long time. They already know if Sahil is coming, this is how we want to position it. This is how we want to bring it all together in order for it to be a memorable experience, right?
That's exactly what we're looking for, because that's something I'd never thought about, right? But now that you've explained it, it totally makes sense. And I have seen you, as I said, multiple times. And, I remember a few times where you're like front and center stage and like surrounded with the beautiful decor and like part of the environment, the event itself feels just so much more elevated compared to,
Absolutely.
and I don't think I've ever seen you get tucked away in the corner, but maybe that's happened like you implied, but that's something I hadn't really thought about before. So super helpful. Any other tips if somebody's bringing you on to, or you or any other musician in for their night, anything else to be aware of?
Talk to them a little bit about the event in itself. Talk to them about the itinerary. Make them aware of what the expectations are going to be in terms of the itinerary, right? I ask them to give me the latitude to do what I do the best, unless they have specific prescription of specific things, like i.e., here are the 2 songs that please make sure. This is my, Dadima. My Dadima loves this track. I was born and raised listening to this track. Could you make sure that this happens, right? Sure, I say this, your wish is my command, right? And obviously that is the way to do this, right? I mean, if they are bringing me on, their wish is my command, and I need to make sure that it is done and executed to perfection according to what they are looking for, right? But after those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs or whatever it is, leave the latitude to me in order to discuss and decide and do that, right?
You are the professional.
So if you discuss... Sorry. Exactly. So when you are discussing the itinerary with the artist, right? I'm talking about X artist, Y artist, Z artist, right? You are basically telling them that here's the itinerary, this and that, the other, right? So leave a little bit of musical latitude to them as well, right? To decide what it could be, right? Because sometimes the clients can be very prescriptive. I start to actually fill in their gaps, right? And soon to them, it turns out that, they're wasting their time. Let me do my stuff and we'll be okay, right? But at the end of the day, I think the artist is in their natural element when they are doing their thing, right? So obviously make them aware of the itinerary and this and that, the other, set those expectations. But other than that, that's it. Leave them alone to actually do their thing, right?
Absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of, I'm sure we've all seen it, where like with DJs, like someone will come up, or when they're hiring a DJ, they're like, here's a list of 78.
But at the end of the day, I think, the artist is in their natural element when they are doing their thing, right? So obviously make them aware of the itinerary and this and that, the other, set those expectations. But other than that, that's it. Leave them alone to actually do their thing, right?
Absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of, I'm sure we've all seen it, where like with DJs, like someone will come up, or when they're hiring a DJ, they're like, here's a list of 78 songs I need you to play. And it's kind of like,
right.
You could just say what genre of music you like, and the DJ will probably kill it because they know how to mix the songs and pick the best songs, as opposed to like, I need these 78 songs. So I think it sounds similar to like what you're describing. And going back, a few minutes to your other great analogy, you're full of great analogies of, the one you described with food. If you had Indian food and Chinese food and Italian food and every other food, and you mixed it into one big, bowl, it would lose it, right? It would lose everything. Like it wouldn't taste good. It would, it might not smell good, and all the money you've spent has kind of gone, down the drain a little bit, right? And it's funny because as you were saying that, I could think of a few weddings that I've been to, and I'm sure you have too, where that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like to me, this wedding probably cost, I don't know, $1 million to put together. Maybe not $1 million, but a lot of money. And oh God, like there's so much stuff that's like clashing and things are not figured out properly. Right. And I think that was, one of your main points is just making sure things are smooth, regardless of how much you've hired or brought in, right? I think you said, did you say less is more or something along those lines?
Absolutely. Less is more. Like the thing is, even if you wanted to really load up your vendor deck, nothing wrong with that, right? But position it in a tasteful way, Right. Position it in a way that everything is different. Everything has a time and space for it, right? For example, let me give you an analogy. can you play for the ceremony, which is followed by the cocktail hour? So the cocktail hour, and then could you play for the first dance? So that's the entire night. So one way to deal with it would be to be a business person and say, you know what?
Hold on.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question? Because I didn't understand something there. You said ceremony, which might be the afternoon. You said the cocktail
4
hour,
p.m.
which is right after.
6 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, and then you said first dance, but I guess in my head I was thinking first dance would be soon after the grand entrance. But you're saying no, the first dance might be like at the end of the night, maybe before.
At the end of the night.
Okay, got
exactly.
it. Okay,
exactly.
I'm following. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's the entire night now. So and can I pull that off? Absolutely. The business person in me should be like, yeah, you know what? They want to pay X amount of dollars. Hey, you know what? No problem. It's not going to cost you X. It will be X plus Y plus Z. And they will be like, yeah, no problem. Because they have a vision and you have said, I will deliver on that vision. But here's the problem. You haven't done justice knowing what you know. One thing that you know is presence and performance. Very important. How do you want to positioning and performance, positioning and presence, sorry. How are you going to actually ensure that it happens that way, right? Now, one thing that I always tell everyone is that if you have a multi-talented artist, don't use their talent all in all, everything through the entire night, because the artist is one thing, but your audience is another. You know, they will look at the same artist and be like, oh yeah, this was the same guy who did the ceremony. Wow, very nice, very nice. You know, then they will be like, during the cocktail hour, oh, this is amazing, great. You know, that same guy. You know, so the thing is, what I like to call it is, as you know, almost like from an artist standpoint, trying to outdo yourself. That's not the point. You do your ceremony, create experiences, memories. No need to position yourself through the cocktail hour and then for the first dance as well. Okay, if you want to really slice and dice, leave the cocktail hour alone. Forget about it. Totally forget about it. And then position during the first dance. Now you have let people to kind of take a back seat, take that image off of the artist and what they're hearing and experiencing and all those type of things. And then again, you give them a complete brand spanking new piece of art that is the song or what have you, and this and that, the other, right? Again, lasting impression. So less is more. You know, you're not saying, oh, you know, same artist, you know, we're gonna position here, there. They're thinking of it from a DJ's perspective. You know, that's not how it works. That's not how it should work with specifically any live artist, including yourself, right? But the thing is, if you've been somewhere already and people have experienced your art, then time is to actually move on. Right? And that's what I mean by less is more, and really tastefully positioning everything that you have specifically from a live artistry perspective.
I totally get that. And, you know, it makes me think of like when you go to a fine dining restaurant, usually you're not bombarded with like this massive plate of like the best pasta. You know, it's almost
Absolutely.
like you get the best tasting pasta you've ever had in your life, but you only get like 4 pieces of pasta. And it's tastefully placed on the plate, and it's like the perfect amount. And you know, it sounds like to me, you know, you're saying apply that same logic, that same 5-star restaurant logic to your big
Absolutely couldn't be put any better, because you know, are you trying to just have another day in the office, or are you trying to create one curated experience that will last forever? I kid you not, really. I get messages from folks who've been, you know, I've worked with them, and they message me, you know, here's my, you know, my 9th year or 8th year wedding anniversary, and you know, we really miss you, and this and that, the other. And you know, that's the placeholder that you have left in their minds. And let me tell you this, today is what, July 7th? Yesterday was July 6th. One of the couples that I played for in 2017 at Ascot Park picked up the flute. I actually played for their first dance, and very interesting couple too, because they did their first dance right after the wedding ceremony was done. The moment they were announced as husband and wife, they walked outside, they did their first dance. I sang for them and everything else, and it went really very, very well taken and everything else, right? He wanted to learn flute to play the exact song, note for note, for his wife on the 4th wedding anniversary.
Wow. I feel so inadequate, Sal.
Me too.
I feel
me
so
too.
inadequate.
Me too. Me too. This guy made me feel inadequate. Seriously speaking, inadequate is the right word for it. Guess what? You will not believe this. So his wife is a lawyer. He himself is a MBA from Rotman and a seasoned consultant with one of the IT companies. So when she would work from home, he would go into the car from his basement or garage or whatever, and he would actually practice. Right?
Wow.
That's the level of impact that my work and my music left on them, that he wanted to actually recreate by actually playing the instrument. And he did it, by the way, yesterday. Right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like one day we gotta bring him on to have a conversation with both of us.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, you have to have that level of passion in order to leave that lasting imprint.
I think you nailed it, especially with that story. When you're leaving those lasting impressions, those are things people remember. And I actually, I've never heard that story from you, I'm hearing that story for the first time. And it actually resonates a little bit with me because I had not exactly the same experience, but a similar experience last summer. And coincidentally, it also occurred at the exact same venue at Oscar Park. And There was a couple that had been married for 10 years and they had a magician at their wedding and they remembered that. But they, for whatever reason, they couldn't remember the name of the magician, or maybe, he wasn't in the city any longer, or whatever the case may be. But last year they wanted to recreate or celebrate their 10th anniversary. Of course, it was COVID at the time. And at that moment in time, they could only have like 5 people within the vicinity if they wanted to celebrate. Wow. So the husband called me up, he found me somehow, and he said, this is my plan, 10th anniversary. I'm going to rent out Ascot Park for me and my wife and my 2 kids. And there's going to be 1 waiter there and that's it. And I want to hire you to just do a show for us, like 3 people or 4 people. And while he didn't learn magic and do it himself, he brought in a magician 10 years later to recreate that feeling. And, again, I think the take-home point is exactly the same, that when you leave someone with memories that will truly last a lifetime, they will think back to it and they may even try to recreate it. And that's how Sahil, that when that guy did that, you've done one heck of a job. And, for me, some other magician probably did a great job 10 years ago. They couldn't find him and they found me. And then I went in and I still got to recreate that for them. So that's fantastic. Now,
that's amazing. Happy memories. Exactly.
We've been talking for a while. And I know you're so well-rounded and performed all over the world. And like you said, you don't even know the number of weddings you've performed at anymore. That's how many you've done. But is there like a memorable experience? It could be something like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now. Or like, what was that couple thinking? Is there anything you could share with us and the viewers today?
I want to share a couple, I guess, is one time when I fell off the stage.
You fell off the stage?
I fell off the stage. Yes, sir.
Do you have it on tape or video or pictures?
No, I don't. Agarwal was the last name of the family.
Were you hurt?
No, I was not. My ego was hurt.
Okay, then I can laugh because I felt silly. I'm like, I laughed and then I'm like, oh my God, what if like you had to go in an ambulance somewhere and then all of a sudden...
No. Believe me, what happened was that there was a stage that I was on. I'm a strickler for sound check, by the way. Strickler for sound check. It has to sound like a CD or nothing. Otherwise, forget it. You've not done your job, right? So I'm on the stage. We're done a sound check. Everything's good to go. Performing. They announce last song and, we're about to open the door. Okay, no problem. Open the door. Problem is the sound check was done with the doors closed. So the speaker's position was right behind the door. Okay. And the door's closed, the speaker's right here. Happens to be that they say, oh, okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the doors are now open and blah, blah, blah. Door opens. Now the speaker is directly, the soundscape instead of this is bounce off of the door and right into my microphone, and there comes the feedback. So I obviously, what would I do? I'd actually go back from the microphone, remove the decibels, just stand back. And little did I know that it was an 8x4, and there was a lot of room between the wall in the back, or the backdrop that they had, and where the stage ended. Through the hole.
Oh my God.
Through the hole. My flute box went, here, the smallest flute probably went like 200 feet in the air, like literally it went middle of nowhere, right? So I think people were shocked, and obviously my first thing was to, put the showman hat on, keep it on, right? And obviously, get on the mic and be like, wherever I left, I picked it up there and I kept going, right? As if nothing had happened. I obviously just said, I'm perfectly fine, guys, enjoy the rest of the evening. I'm perfectly fine, and keep continuing, right? But that was one. And then Fairmont, I remember Fairmont, I did a project, and it was a ceremony followed by cocktail, interestingly, and cocktail hour. The folks were so engaged. They were having just the amount of fun. There was a couple there, just friends, right? Friends of and I think I have a snippet on Instagram as well there. They started dancing to the track that I was playing, and they kept on doing that, and just hyper engaged is what I like to call it, right? Whether it was the music or whether they were just having so much fun, and that, kid you not, that gig translated into many more for me internationally as well. Went to Syracuse for it, went to Colombo, Sri Lanka for it.
Wow.
And so on and so forth, right? So anyways, a lot of great memories, but these two probably stand out.
That's amazing, man. And I live for those moments, because again, like you and
Absolutely.
I, we worked many shows and many gigs together, but these are the moments you can't get out in the little time we have together while we're both doing our thing. So thanks so much for sharing that. Let me share with you my screen, and I'm gonna share with you a few pictures you're familiar with right from your Instagram. Can you see my screen at this time?
Yes, I can.
I call this segment one word. I'm gonna show you one picture. Oh no, this isn't a picture. This is a video. And
that is a picture from Sri Lanka, by the way.
This video.
It was me doing a sound check. Yeah, it was me doing sound check with the only female drum band of Sri Lanka. That is all Sri Lanka. That's all Sri Lanka.
Wow, all of this there, everything we're seeing.
The whole thing is Colombo, Sri Lanka, Hyatt downtown.
Wow, that's amazing.
Or the Hilton, the Hilton Colombo.
So you really have just gone all over the world performing. That's amazing.
Yeah, man, literally. I mean, at this point, it seems like it. Anyways, this is
There you are. This is exactly Sri Lanka. Okay, wow, amazing. I love it. Okay, one word to describe this picture here.
Tranquil.
I'm so ignorant. I'm sorry. What does tranquil mean?
I don't know how to explain tranquility. Tranquility is basically, a subset of peace, calm, joy. A tranquil moment. Would be an all-engulfing term for all those things, right?
And can I just say, not only do you play beautifully, you always look like freaking rock star. You always have the most amazing, kurta or the red jacket or whatever it is. You always look really like a superstar. So I love that. And do you always how many bansuris here do you have, and how many do you carry with you when you go to these shows?
Good question. So I carry the entire set, and that is just to make sure that happens all kinds of things that we deal with, man. Because so for example, at this very location, and this very picture, this is from Madison Gardens in Newmarket. My first time playing there. It was a mixed wedding, so Tamil, and it was a civil Christian ceremony as well, back to back. Turns out the groom's aunt from New York wanted to sing an opera piece. And kid you not, she had an opera voice. I mean, plus minus here and there, but she was actually really good. Sri Lankan descent. And I think she used to work for some kind of an embassy. We had a very short chat, but she wanted me, and this happens right on the spot. She goes, Yeah, the groom has requested me to sing an opera piece, and I would want you to play alongside. It's not a problem, but on a normal day, I would have probably wanted a little bit more notice, right? And a little bit more idea that that would happen, and I would have probably had you record a piece, send it to me, so that we have corrected which flute is to be played, what's the mood of the opera, how are we going to actually follow and work together, and so on and so forth. So when I have the entire set with me, I have the ability to actually really play. Panditji sometimes start to sing. Panditjis, some are very good singers, right? They will start singing alongside. Well, if I'm sticking to only one or two flutes, I only have very limited gamut that I can actually play in terms of scales. This whole set allows me to have entire scale that you can possibly imagine, low, high. The smaller ones are very, very high. The bigger ones, this is probably the medium size. The full size is probably double the size in terms of the one that I'm playing in this picture, and allows me to actually, play along with the Panditji or, accompany him, or in this case, in this very odd case, nice case, good experience, I guess, was to play with an opera singer, the first time ever that we collaborated, and we did well thanks to the entire set that I had. Right. So, anyways, yeah.
That's crazy. I would have never guessed. And it just kind of goes to show how much work goes into this. It's not like you're just sticking like one bassuri in your pocket and showing up to a gig, right?
No, unfortunately not.
You got the entire works. Okay, amazing. Let's do one more. How about this one? One word to describe this. Oh wait, there's a video.
You know him, right?
Yeah, I do. I didn't realize it was a video though when I selected it.
Yeah, that's okay. So we did. I did a gala for TD, TD Bank, and they had brought him on as obviously the dragon, as well as the ex-dragon, as well as the food connoisseur, right?
Sorry, for people that may not know who he is, can you maybe just give a 10-second or 20-second intro?
Absolutely. He is a celebrity chef from Vancouver. His name is Vij, and as you can probably see, Eat, Drink, Vij is his, he owns a couple of restaurants and a couple of food lines as well from Vancouver. And he was also the ex-dragon on the Dragon's Den in Canada as well.
Which is same as like Shark Tank that they have in the US.
Absolutely. And here he's just basically saying that, if you want to learn flute, you have to learn from Sahil, and if you want to learn how to cook food, you have to learn from me.
I love that.
I tried to say that, in line with the video itself, but that's basically what he's saying.
That's amazing. Well, Sahil, I can't believe like all of 45 minutes or whatever it's been has flown by. I thought we were going to talk for 20 minutes, but you provided so much good content and context. Maybe one or two things before we go. So again, actually, let me stop sharing my screen. The entire purpose, as you already know, of this project is, again, to share with couples tips, tricks, and checklists for them to consider before their big wedding day. And I know you've already shared a lot, especially when it comes to, questions couples should be asking and thinking about. But is there anything else before we go? Any other questions we didn't cover that they should be asking a live musician before they bring one on board? Or maybe even a question in general?
You'll be playing live at an event, at my event, this and that, the other, and you tell your DJ that, you tell your DJ that, hey DJ, we will have an artist who's going to be playing live. I kid you not. The DJ sweats bullets. Why? Because they're like, yaar, this time around, we're going to have a live artist. He's going to ask for a mic. He's going to ask for this. He's going to ask for a stand. He's going to ask for an iPad stand. He's going to ask for a Wi-Fi cloud. He's going to ask for this. He's going to ask for that. He's going to ask for that. And suddenly they will call the client and say, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't even know who's coming, but it's going to be at least $500 just to accommodate the live artist. I'm just throwing a figure out, but it could be less or more. But basically the idea is that their stress translates into dollars, right?
Sure.
So the thing is, the artist personally if you were to ask me, they should be responsible for their own stuff. Why? Because at the end of the day, if their sound is not where it should be, they should not be in a position to blame anyone but themselves. If the mic isn't working, nobody's looking at the DJ. They're looking at me.
So do you bring your own mics?
You have to.
What about, like, you can't bring your own speakers, right? So what happens?
It depends, right? So I mean, it all depends. If you are in a position where the hall is equipped, then it is what it is, right? But it all depends. In majority of the situations, the hall's already equipped, sound equipment and everything else, and you're there early to make sure the sound is working as intended, right? You need to know what the artist is technically going to need. You don't want to hire prime, artist, and he shows up to your gig and he's like, oh, well, you know what? You don't have that mic. I need a specific AKG C414. That's the only one that I perform well on. Everything else is garbage. This is a real, I'm talking about, this is a real thing that actually happens.
So sorry, what's the lesson in all this? Like, I believe you, and I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. But what's the lesson in this for me as a future bride or groom?
The lesson in it is talk to your vendors, talk to them and experience and talk to them at a human level. Right, and see if you are on the same page, and you share the same thought process. You share the same vibe. Talk to the vendor or the artist or whoever, and see it at a human level. Are you guys on the same vibe? Do you feel what they're saying? Do you understand where they're coming from? Do they understand where you're coming from? What's the requirement for your event? All those type of things. And the moment you will see, a lot of disconnect, that's when it's not a relationship that you can actually, harness in long term or midterm, what have you, right? So my thing is talk to them at a human level, and that will give you a very good window into what working relationship you're going to have with them and how successfully they will execute your vision, right?
Beautifully put, my friend. Listen, before we go, I want to ask you, is there, for me to continue this type of, content to continue to give back to the community, I need to keep speaking to other really smart and talented people like yourself. If you had to think of one or two people within the industry that you know personally that you can perhaps introduce me to, that would be good for this. Is there one or two people you could think of that you can share?
Absolutely. I think from the DJ community, right? Bring on Jitin, right? If you can, he's been in the industry, he's seen the ups and downs.
I'm just gonna pause you for a second. It has to be someone you can introduce me to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can introduce.
You think that you personally think is going to be great for this show. We know he's one of the top guys in the city, and if you could introduce me to him, that'd be great. Anyone else?
And I think you should try to get one of the wedding coordinators on as well, and I can introduce you to many and request them to make sure that as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, who can actually come on board and give their side of the story as to where they sit and how they see it being executed end to end.
Is there anyone that comes to mind in particular?
Oh, there are so many of them. All of them are great, right? Okay. So I can definitely introduce you to one.
All good. I'm sure you will. You're so well connected. Okay, if somebody watched this video and they fell in love with you and your style, and they're like, oh my God, we need to have you, at our wedding, where can they find you? Do you have a website, Instagram?
Instagram is the best way. That's where they get to, kind of feel the vibe as to what I do, at a high level as well. Obviously Instagram doesn't have everything, but at least it can communicate the music that I play and that sort of thing, right? It's Flute Hypnosia. That's the handle. And if you're just trying to find it on Instagram, just write Sahil Flute, and that should show my Instagram handle.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. It was so much fun speaking to you one-on-one like this. And man, I can't wait to get back out there and do more shows with you alongside you. So thank you again.
Absolutely, Durgi. You are always fun to work with, my man. You have a soul, nothing, not like anyone that I've met before. You know that. I've said this to you before as well.
I couldn't pay someone enough to say that about me. So
hey, that's good. I take Bitcoins and Doge coins and this coin, that coin, everything else, right? So, but anyways, I say that without an ounce of a doubt. So keep that vibe going, and I'm really looking forward to working alongside as well. And I'm sure it's just around the corner.
All right, my friend. Take care.